Good afternoon, my dear students. Welcome back to our program of news analysis. Today we have got the newspaper dated November 24 with us. Yes, we have a small issue in the application. Our technical team is working on that. Soon we shall be able to solve. The short examinations or examinations that we give, when you click, an error is shown, and there is certain issues as regards downloading of your notes that we accept. Yes, we are working on that. In fact, a few new updates are happening, that is the reason. Soon we shall be able to fix the issue, but there is no issue with regard to watching of the videos. Of course, you know that in the mathematics videos and all, the questions are also given, so you can easily do the work. Do not think that the world has ended, just keep on working. If there is a problem, then we have a solution too, we shall find out soon. Another happy news from the government that educational institutions of our kind can start functioning. So soon we shall be starting our regular classroom sessions too. Announcement of in that regard will come to you soon. So those people who wish to join the regular program will get an opportunity soon to join us. But of course, the online sessions will continue in full steam as it is going now. It is not going to take the back seat for any reason. We will have the regular classes, and we will have the online sessions too. Yes, so now I am moving on to the newspaper analysis of the day. I request all of you to join our social media sites for regular updates from us, and post your responses to our videos. That will be a great encouragement to all of us. Hindu dated November 24 is what we are going to discuss today. Yes, the major news has been the Oxford vaccine. Oxford vaccine is something that we all are looking at very curiously, because it is the Oxford vaccine that Indians are going to enjoy to get the maximum. And another news item has been the controversial ordinance by the government of Kerala to prosecute and send to jail for 3 years anybody who misuses the social media or electronic media. That was unexpected and unwarranted from a government like that in Kerala. Anyway, we shall discuss that in detail. Oxford vaccine is 70% effective. 200 million doses will be ready by year end, says the pharma major, and the cost is also very much affordable. That is the speciality of this vaccine. The average efficacy is 70%. Pfizer has given the 90% effective vaccine. There are many other candidate vaccines are also available. The British drug maker said it will have as many as 200 million doses by the end of 2020, around 4 times as many in the first quarter of 2021. The vaccine on average prevented 70% of COVID-19 cases in late stage trials. In Britain and Brazil, the success rate rose to 90% if the vaccine was administered as half dose followed by a full dose. So it is not just the vaccine that matters, whether the doses are also going to matter. So we have got many good news from various sources. There is a news from Moderna of United States, Pfizer of United States, and now the Sputnik vaccine from Russia, and now our own vaccine, the Oxford University vaccine, whose production is going to take place in Serum Institute of Pune. So, this vaccine is very much affordable too. So, we all are looking at how the max vaccine administration is going to take place in this country. I told you many times before that how the world is going to administer the vaccine is going to occupy the majormost space in the newspapers and media in the days to come. So, please closely follow them. Kerala puts new libel law on hold. Yes, this was a controversial ordinance that the government came out with. The government of Kerala on Monday decided not to put into immediate effect an ordinance that sought to empower the police to prosecute persons disseminating defamatory content. On the face of it, you would think that these sort of laws are required, but this will lead to police excesses. And announcing the rollback, Chief Minister decided to roll back the ordinance. Various quarters had aired skepticism about the recent revision of the Kerala Police Act 2011. Hence, the government had decided not to implement the ordinance signed into law by the Governor of Kerala. Also, the government has decided, of course, it has become an act of the state. Once the governor puts his signed into an ordinance, it becomes an act, it becomes a law. So, the government has to implement the law, but the government has asked the officials not to initiate actions based on this law. There was criticism from within the within the Communist Party, and there has been very big criticism from even outside the state. This was very much uncalled for a government, leftist government of Kerala. You see, there was another wrong intention from the part of the government. The government wanted to, through this act, the government wanted to give the magisterial authority to senior police officer of the district. That would have been a real havoc, because presently the police work under the governmental revenue department, the district collector. So, district collectors, many magisterial roles would be played by the police commissioner or the superintendent of police of the district. That would have created real havoc, but fortunately, though of very late, the government was convinced and government tried to rectify the mistakes that it committed. Move to allow corporates to set up bank attracts flack. Listen, this is the pick of the day. Government of India's, so Reserve Bank of India's internal working group, we discussed that particular thing 2 days ago, and of course this was given as a question in one of my recent general awareness tests, that the internal working group of the Reserve Bank of India, in its report, batted for allowing corporate houses to own banks. That would have been a big disaster, because see, none other than Dr. Raghuram Rajan, the former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, seriously criticized this decision or this recommendation of the internal working group. The internal working group's recommendation reflect the thought process within the Reserve Bank of India, that corporate houses can hold the hold the ownership of banks. That would bring big disaster, because it is the borrower which is going to dictate the terms of the bank. Suppose I am the borrower and I own the bank. I am a corporate house. Imagine that I am a corporate house. I own a bank and I will decide whom should the money be lent to, and the money will naturally come to us. Already Reserve Bank of India is facing a lot of flack for the regulatory sleight of hand that happened in the case of Lakshmi Vilas Bank. Professionalism is lacking in Reserve Bank of India, that is very seriously criticized. We know that if you take the past few Reserve Bank of India governors, they were not part of the government, they were pure professionals. But now at the helm of Reserve Bank of India, there is an ex-bureaucrat. So Reserve Bank of India has to be well and truly autonomous and independent in its decisions. But now Reserve Bank of India has started playing to the gallery, and that is going to be a very big disaster. Anyway, the quality of the asset of the banks will deteriorate if the borrower becomes the owner of the bank. By allowing corporate entities to own banks, this is what exactly going to happen. The borrower will soon become the owner of the bank, and that will be the last nail on the coffin of Indian banking system. That was very seriously criticized, and in the days to come we can expect many articles on this particular subject. The history of connected lending is invariably disastrous. How can the bank make good loans when it is owned by the borrower? Look, how can the bank make good loans? Good loan means quality loans or quality assets when it is owned by the borrower. So that is what the article says. So please, this is co-written by ex-deputy governor Viral Acharya, co-written by Viral Acharya and Dr. Raghuram Rajan, the former Reserve Bank of India governor. Bhutan's border village on disputed land. This is something that I mentioned yesterday at the tri-junction Doklam. Tri-junction means it is Doklam is the tri-junction of the three countries on the border: Bhutanese border, Chinese border and Indian border. And in 2017, for of criminal defamation, the court made it clear that no police officer can register an FIR for an offence. Okay, please listen, try to understand what that is all about. The government of India, the government of Kerala has irrationally brought in an ordinance. Ordinance is equivalent to the law passed by the Legislative Assembly. Of course, it has got a limitation of 6 months, that is a different thing. Yes, it is buffering. Okay, Gauri says that now it is okay. If buffering takes place, that could be the issue at your end, maybe the network issue. Yes, we have the evening class, Nandu. We have the evening class at 3 o'clock. Yes, okay, we shall continue. Banking health and K-curve dynamics. I recommend this article. It is more core finance thing, but still you can read. This article has got reference to the Lakshmi Vilas Bank's failure and the subsequent moratorium imposed by the Reserve Bank of India on withdrawal up to 25,000, more beyond 25,000 for its depositors. So the article says that there has been a regulatory sleight of hand from the oversight from the Reserve Bank of India. So it is speaking about price to book value. I told you yesterday also. Now look what has happened. Lakshmi Vilas Bank has financially collapsed. Reserve Bank of India has imposed a moratorium on withdrawal up to 25,000, beyond 25,000 for depositors. So Reserve Bank of India has allowed the bank to be taken over by DBS of Singapore. So depositors are safe because it is regulated by Reserve Bank of India, and a new owner is coming, pumping in nearly 2,500 crore. Another thing, so depositors are happy, employees will naturally be happy because they are going into the safer hands, but the current owners lost the value of their assets. It was criticized that 2 years ago in 2018, the same DBS had valued the shares of LVB at double the price what it offers now. So, this is why the Reserve Bank of India is widely criticized. We do not know whether the owners will move the court and the takeover will be entangled by court battle. We have to wait. A conspiracy against interfaith love. We know that the UP government, Haryana government and Madhya Pradesh government are trying to enact a law to prevent so called love jihad. The fundamental question is simple. How can the state intervene in private relationships? It is simply not possible. It will not test the test of constitutionality. So, such a law may not even exist. Even if the legislature passes such a law, it may not stand the test of constitutionality, because the state cannot enter into relationships of private relationships, and that is not acceptable too. Anyway, in some of the police cases that they have taken in UP have failed, because they were the party concerned were consented, they gave consent to continue the relationship. The state has to move out of the picture. Anyway, please read. This is also the state arbitrary power, using arbitrary power, making laws to control relationship, which is not acceptable. Time for an ancient century. Listen, the reference is RCEP. You see, it is very clear that the past century belonged to the West. We know about colonial powers. Britain, all the European powers were colonial powers. They were dictating terms. Britain established colonies in more than 100 countries, and more than 54 modern nations were under British sovereignty. That was the case with other colonial powers too. They subjugated many countries, and most of Asia and Africa were subjugated by European colonies. So, the past century belonged to the West. If that were the case, this century belongs to the East. It is undoubtedly going to be an Asian century. Major powers in Asia like China, India and South Korea are going to dictate terms. Of course, Japan also going to dictate terms to the world, even to the West. If the past century belongs to the Western powers, this century belongs to the Eastern powers, Asian powers. If the past century belongs to the developed world, this century is going to belong to the developing powers. If the last century belonged to producers, this century belongs to consumers. So, better read a good readable article, make ideas. India briefs foreign diplomats on Nagrota terror incident, where on November 19, Pakistan based Jaish-e-Mohammed suspected terrorists were killed in Nagrota, Jammu and Kashmir. See, this is the international relationship. An incident that took place in India is not contained within India. We are always answerable to international community for any law that we make, or any incident that would happen here. So, now the foreign diplomats were briefing to the international community on what was happening in Jammu and Kashmir. We know that Nepal appears to be tilting towards China. We are worried about it. We are worried about greater Chinese influence on countries around India. It is in Nepal, in the eastern part. In the western part, Chinese influence is on Pakistan, and on the southern part, on Sri Lanka also, China is investing heavily. So, this is something that India is seriously concerned about. Recently, Nepalese government the 3 Uttarakhand provinces of Kalapani, Lipu Lake and Limpiathura, these 3 places, Indian places were depicted as a part of Bhutan sovereign. This was criticized by India. Indian territories, 3 territories were made a part of Bhutan, sorry, Nepal in their map, not Bhutan, Nepal in their map. So, the relationship between India and Nepal appeared to have deteriorated, and we do not like Nepal tilting towards China. So, we have sent, last week we sent our army chief who was given a hearty welcome by in Nepal. Now, the Indian Foreign Secretary is visiting Nepal. These are all strategically important, diplomatically important missions. 2014-29 period is very important for India. So, says the Prime Minister, it is going to be historic for the country's development, and a lot remains to be done in the remaining period. He was speaking after inaugurating 76 multi-story flats in the national capital for MPs. You see, MPs housing has been an issue in Delhi. Many past MPs have not given back their homes. So, now the government has come out with 76 multi-story flats in national capital. The 16 Lok Sabha 2014-19 had been historic for the country's progress, and the 17 Lok Sabha had already become a part of history due to a number of decisions that it had taken. Though it are all political rhetoric, this point is very important. The inauguration of 76 multi-story flats in the national capital for the members of parliament. Very important question can come for the examination. Former Assam Chief Minister, 3 times Chief Minister Tarun Gogoi passed away. He was also a member of the Union Cabinet in the Dr. P.V. Narasimha Rao ministry during 1991-95, and he was 6 times MP from Assam. He was instrumental in containing insurgency in Assam. We know that Assam had a very bad patch since independence. It had always the issues of migration from nearby Bangladesh, and that resulted in resentment among Assami people, which formed as insurgency. So, Tarun Gogoi was responsible for containing insurgency and bringing back Assam to normalcy. So, he passed away. Hong Kong activist Joshua Wong detained for 2019 illegal assembly. We know that Hong Kong is going through a very bad patch. Hong Kong is a former British colony, now under China. Under British rule, Hong Kong enjoyed the benefits of democracy, the freedom of democracy, but since 1998, it was in 1997 that Hong Kong was formally handed over to China. Ever since then, China has been trying to strangulate Hong Kong and trying to deprive Hong Kong people of the freedom that they have been enjoying, against which there have been long struggle and protests. We know that for the past 1 year or more than 1 year, there have been protests in Hong Kong by pro-democracy activists. So, Joshua Wong is detained under the new Chinese law, and he is going to be in jail if he is convicted. So, look, wherever people have fought for a right cause, what history says is that weapons become ineffective before the will of the people. Single window approval for FDI by March. The finance minister says that there will be, if somebody wants to invest in India, there is only one window that they have to approach, the they will get all kinds of clearance. That is what is called single FDI, foreign direct investment approach. Single window clearance will be there from March 31. Approvals will become more transparent and expeditious, says the finance minister. So, she was attending a meeting hosted by the CII, Confederation of Indian Industry. Skeptical about allowing corporates to own banks. RBI will face issues in supervision, says S&P. S&P means Standard & Poor, which is a credit rating agency. S&P Global Ratings on Monday expressed skepticism over allowing corporate ownership in banks given India's weak corporate governance amid large corporate defaults over the past few years. Listen, if you take the total non-performing asset of Indian banking system, it would come to the tune of 10 lakh crore before COVID. And out of that 10 lakh crore non-performing asset, a substantial part is from big Indian corporates. Ordinary borrowers like us pay the loans promptly, but the real defaulters are the corporates. So, it is to those corporates that the Indian banks are going to be, they are going to own the banks if this particular recommendation by the internal working group is accepted. So, that is what is criticized by S&P also. We have to wait and see. Reforms to usher the new era of growth, says Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant. Okay. Our growth in the past many years has been investment driven. For investments to come, the situations have to be very open and predictable. The governance must be predictable, the tax laws must be predictable, and the general environment must be predictable. So, what we are doing now is to facilitate investment. So, that is the essence of what Mr. Amitabh Kant, the CEO of Niti Aayog said. Niti Aayog, to remind you, is the new avatar of the old planning commission. Thank you very much for watching the video. There will be another session at 3 o'clock, which we will have another session on quantitative aptitude. So, I would like to draw your attention to a few things. There is an issue with our application. It is not an issue, rather we are upgrading. So, the technical team is working on that. So, you will have some issues. We really regret the inconvenience faced by you, and also the government of Kerala has given permission to start regular classes, classroom classes for institutions like that of ours. We will be having regular classes soon, and we will give you information regarding that. Those who would prefer to join the class will have to follow the procedure. We will let you know anyway, it is up to you, but that does not mean that our online classes are going to take the back seat. It will be a prominent flagship program of ours. Good luck to you. Have a very good day. Meet you again.